Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Drops Over Zero, and today we are back with another wrestler interview. Guys, today we are interviewing the one, the only, Mr. Judgment. Mr. Judgment, thank you so much for coming on here today.
Oh, not a problem. It's my pleasure. My pleasure, bud.
That's great to hear. Mr. Judgment owns a company called DBW. Would you want to explain a little bit about that?
Absolutely. BBW stands for Dominating Backyard Wrestling, and we are one of the biggest backyard wrestling feds online right now that's still active and current, and we're one of the biggest up-and-coming feds as well. We keep growing and growing. It seems to be every day. Whether it be on Facebook or on YouTube or wherever the case is. We have a very experienced and tenured roster, as well as some new guys, some fresh faces on our roster. And we have continued events. We do special announcements. We do different talk shows and events, and we try to keep it active and engaging for our fans in the DBW universe. We even like to add comedy and skits to, just to kind of keep it fun for everybody. And for people that might not be hardcore wrestling fans, I think we have something for everybody if they just want to be entertained. That's the purpose of Dominating Backyard Wrestling. Our purpose is to be exactly what our motto says, and that's we are the dominant force in backyard wrestling today.
Exactly. It's a good motto. You said you had some new guys coming down earlier, and you had a lot new things in plan for 2017. So if you don't mind, do you want to go down of that list of what you want to introduce for this year?
Sure, absolutely. Well, first of all, let me say that, my company, we went under a few different names. We were called the DWF for a long time, and then we were called the DTW whenever we did some trampoline wrestling for a while, and then we integrated into DBW I believe it was last June. And we've been around, so with all three of those, we've been around since about 2000. So a long time, about 17 years worth of business. And last year was a huge year for DBW and just about every single one of its members. We had a lot of new faces that appeared last year that had great success with us. We actually built our own ring from the ground up. We didn't buy it or anything. We built it as a wooden ring. It ended up being absolutely fantastic. It lasted us all year, and we actually still have it set up as a training ring. But it was just fantastic. It felt great, looked great, considering that we built it from scratch. That really helped us elevate from basically wrestling on a broken trampoline to wrestling in would look to be a realistic ring. It's the first time we've ever had ropes last year to work with. We took a huge jump forward in-ring production as well as video production last year. And this year, we're always looking to try to one-up ourselves, to try to top everything that we do, which is sometimes hard to do. But this year is going to be absolutely amazing. We actually, on the way right now, is a 16 by 16 foot professional backyard wrestling ring. It's absolutely ginormous. The ring that we had before was 11 by 11. So this one's 5 feet by 5 feet bigger. And it's going to look great. Black canvas, black ropes, red turnbuckles, which are our colors anyway. Plus we have that, and we're going to be officially, for the first time ever this year, be indoors. We have our new DBW arena in our new home of Shippensburg, Pennsylvania. It's going to have a professional sound system, professional lighting with a professional ring, entranceway. The crowd's going to be right there. It's going to be absolutely amazing. The environment for our first event, Total Domination, which is coming up on April 22nd, is going to be absolutely insane. And we cannot wait for everyone to see the brand new, and if you can improve it, the brand new and improved DBW this year for 2017.
I know it's going to be great. DBW having a whole new roster, pretty much, having a whole new having a whole new, well, set of companies coming down, if you're willing to say. Besides your company, I believe you have 4 more or 30 more.
Yeah, we're always looking to branch out. I've said this multiple times, regardless of what anybody thinks, because I've heard some opinions from some other companies. But DBW has always been the land of opportunity. We pushed that. I've said that for years, and it continues to be that. For example, at our very first event of our 2017 season, we could have had just a solo DBW event and had an absolutely amazing event. But what we like to do is we like to help out other backyard wrestling federations, especially ones that are trying to get off the ground, as well as give us more exposure and exposing our brand and growing our brand, DBW. And this year, as of right now, we have, of course, my own federation, my own company. We'll be working alongside with ECW, which we started with last year, which is your company. We will also be working with BEW out of New York, along with the UWF out of New York, and the EBW out of Pittsburgh. And that's just to start. So that's what we have booked up for the first few months here for the 2017 season. So a lot of new talent that my fan base is going to be exposed to, and a lot of my talent from my company that's going to be exposed to all these other wrestlers and all these other companies. So it's a win-win for everybody, I believe, whenever you can work with other companies and network this way. So it's going to be exciting, absolutely exciting.
It is. It's really incredible. A bunch of new companies, and I know, like you said, you had experience with ECW, and I'm just curious, have you had any experiences with those other companies that are coming down to this show?
Direct experience, like in-ring experience, no. I've had experience, of course, with ECW wrestling up at your guys' Christmas show last year, which I had I was in the ring with Victor Van Pelt and Johnny Reed. Johnny Reed was from the BEW, and I think we had a great match. I think it was so smooth. I think I made those guys look like $1 million. Maybe even a little bit better than what they are. Not saying they're not good wrestlers, but that's everyone's job as a wrestler is this is one of the things that we go over in training for DBW is you're in the ring to make your opponent look good. And if the wrestlers all have that mindset, you will have an absolutely amazing match. And the other second key thing about this business is you have to be able to sell. If you cannot sell in that ring, you'll lose the crowd, you'll lose the interest, and you'll end up having a garbage match. But my experience with ECW, for the most part, has been really good. It was a great experience to wrestle up there with you guys in that ring, and I think we got great exposure for my company up there with just having that match, plus the Blaze wrestling with you and Jay Rollins, I believe, and then Paradox and Cyrus were in a mixed promotion tag team match, which I think that match ended up being garbage, not really showing their true talent skills. But it was good exposure for us nonetheless, and we proved why we are at the top of our game right now.
Yeah, you guys are going really well. And you kind of said something about our ring, which reminds me of a story between you and a company known as WBW. Yeah.
I forgot about that.
You've wrestled in their ring before, and from what I'm told, it was made out of just tires.
Okay, so that ring, if that's what you want to call it, I tell you what, again, we went up there because, Bryce and I, back whenever he was BBP, Psycho Clown, whatever, he's had so many gimmicks and seems to be in the past 24 hours. It's ridiculous. But anyway, whenever we went up there, it was mainly because him and I had started going back and forth on YouTube. He had answered, I pretty much just issued a challenge out to backyard wrestling as a whole, just saying to prove me wrong that I'm not the best in this business, and he was one of the first ones to respond. We got talking back and forth and everything, and, he let me know that he wrestled for WBW at the time because I think ECW was kind of in a hiatus at that point. But basically, we ended up going up there and had 2 matches up there. One with James Rush, who was one of their best guys, who, in my opinion, is still a really good wrestler, a very good grappler more than anything, but pretty much wiped the floor with him. And then we had a tag team match with inter-promotion tag team match with me and RJ Carnage going against the Burfinator and Victor BVP at that point. And we won that as well. So it was a great experience for us, but that ring absolutely sucked. It was worse than landing on the ground. I mean, I'm like, we traveled 3 hours for this. But, we did it because, we love this business and we wanted to grow our brand. And, I was sore for about 2 weeks after that match. I mean, my back was killing me. I'm not a spring chicken. I'm not a young fella. And so it takes me a little bit longer to recuperate. But, man, that ring's horrible. But good exposure. We did great considering what we were dealt with. I took some ridiculous bumps in that ring as they typically do in any ring. But it was good for us. It was good for us and good for them.
Oh, I bet it was a fun match. I didn't see all of it, but I did see certain points of the match, and from those certain points, it looked like a really good match. But you said something about Burfinator, and Burf just recently announced that he had left the DBW, but he has said it has been on good terms. So if you don't mind talking about it, what happened between you and him?
Well, it pretty much is on good terms for the most part. I mean, I think he said some things behind the scenes that I think he's going to regret saying. And, look, whenever he moves, and whenever we knew he was moving, it's a big hit to him because, we at DBW, we're moving forward. We are riding this wave of momentum, and we're going to ride it till we can't ride it anymore. And, with him moving to pursue his passion for video game design or whatever he wants to do, completely understand that. That's great. I'll be honest, I tried to convince him out of it because we enjoyed him as a wrestler. He was, one of our staples in our company, a great guy for us, great character with the Burfinator, had a couple different gimmicks going, but always a fun character in the audience, our crowd and our fan base really enjoyed, the entertainment value that he could bring to a match. But and he was, his last match was Day of Reckoning last year. It ended up being a really good event for him. He ended up winning our World Extreme Championship from myself in that, and then ended up losing it in a second match to Paradox. But still, great experience for him. He got to win a title in his last event. And then he was pretty much gone, and he was actually slated to wrestle in Total Domination and be part of our Anarchy Championship match, but he wasn't happy with his character and wasn't happy that he wasn't in the main event picture. But the thing is, when we look at it, I'm part of a corporate team. It's not just Mr. Judgement that runs the show. Regardless of what people think, it's myself, the Exterminator is our vice president, and Paradox is our commissioner. And we spend hours planning out storylines and different ways that different match outcomes can help see which way the DBW is going to go in every year. And when it came down to it, the Burfinator, and I keep saying this, and he fell victim to this trap that wrestling and backyard wrestling is not about winning and losing. It's absolutely not. And I actually lost more matches than I won last year. But it's about putting on the best match that you can put on. And even though I lost more matches last year than I won last year, every time I'm in that ring, it's a freaking highlight reel. And I think that's the same case for a lot of guys in my company. That their job is to sell. Their job is to make your match look the best that you can make it look. And we all have that mentality. And Burf kind of strayed away from that, and was upset that he wasn't in the main event picture and didn't win. And he thought that his character was becoming like a joke character in the DBW, but that's partially on him because that's kind of the way he wanted his character to go. His character was never really a serious character by some of the things he would say in a match and during a match. He liked it. I thought that he liked the comedy element, but regardless, he wasn't happy with how his character was going. Me being the president of this company, if somebody wants to leave, I'm not going to, beg on, plead on the ground for me to, please don't go. Now, if you want to go, I mean, there's a door. But I tell you what, you're going to be missing out, and it's a shame that he's going to be missing out on competing in Total Domination, because he would have gotten great exposure with 4 companies involved. But for whatever reason, he decided to skip out. I guess he's working for ECW part time, which good for them, and good luck with Burf, and wish him the best. But it's just kind of a shame how it all turned out, but it's his decision.
Yeah, it is a bit unfortunate, because I would have loved to go at it with him in DBW. I do get, actually, I'll tell you this later, but, there is going to be some great matches with him down in ECW, from what I'm being told. But,
he's a good worker. I mean, he's a good seller, more than anything, I think. There's in my experience, there's 2 kinds of wrestlers in this business, and you have to have these kind of wrestlers. It's just how it is, and it's no offense to these kind of wrestlers. You just are who you are. You have leaders in a match, and you have followers in a match. And it's pretty apparent who's the leader and who's the follower in the match. And like I said, you have to have both to give and take. But he's definitely a follower in a match. Never really been good at taking the lead in a match, but that's okay. If he's paired up with someone who can take the lead and kind of direct how a match is going to go, he's going to have a great match. Hoping that he gets that opportunity. Like I said, I wish him the best, but it's going to be his loss in the long run.
Yeah, it is a bit unfortunate, but with you having all this talk about ECW, this leads me on to a question. Would you ever wrestle for ECW again? Sure.
I think if the opportunity presents itself, and I'm intrigued enough, absolutely I could wrestle for ECW again. Like I said, I had a great time, met a lot of great people, and regardless of what it looks like on video and with character based, Bryce and I are on pretty good terms. It was rocky there to start after he no-showed for a show last year, but we let bygones be bygones, move forward. Like I said, it ended up that we went up there in December and had a great show. And, I think he would love to have me up there and, truly whip his ass. So, no, it'd be a great experience. I would definitely not turn down the opportunity.
I'll be completely honest. If I do happen to get a bit more exposure and a bit, in the better works of a character, or of at least my character, I would love to head into the ring with you one day, one-on-one, have ourselves a hell of a match. And one day, though.
I try to, like I said, I try to make, my matches as great as they can be. And I think you can look at just about any single match, whether I've wrestled in DBW or ECW or WBW or wherever the case is. My matches are ranked in the best in the card of the whole event that I've been a part of. I've had a lot of experience. I've been fortunate to have a lot of experience, not to toot my own horn or anything at all, but I know a lot about this business. And I'm very good at what I do in that ring. I would never say that I'm really, or I won't say that I'm really the greatest of all time or anything like that. I think, I don't need to say it. I think my quality in the matches and in the ring, shows for itself.
Yeah, and I mean, you're honestly kind of a bit of a ring vet.
Oh yeah.
How long have you been wrestling for?
I've been wrestling, well, it started back in the late 90s, just kind of messing around. My brothers, I have two younger brothers, so it's perfect. I'm the oldest of 3 boys, so, plus we had cousins that would come over and wrestle on trampolines or, stack up pillows on the floor, move sofas together, whatever the case was. We would wrestle wherever we could, but, it was just kind of messing around and stuff. And, And then we got the backyard thing going with the DWF and kind of just started with that, messing around with that. And for the longest time, our ring was 2 futon mattresses stacked on top of each other, and that was it. So that was our ring for a long time. But I'll tell you what, we made it look pretty damn good. And some of those matches are on YouTube, on the DBW page under the History Vault, I think it is, or the Vault. Just some classic matches from the early 2000s and mid 2000s. But I did that for a while, and then I actually wrestled professionally for a few different companies. I can't remember. I only had 2 shows with the company out of PA, but I wrestled for the NWL in the House of Pain Pro Wrestling here in Maryland. Wrestled alongside with guys like Luke Gallows. It was Jackpot Jimmy Jessup, John Rambo. So there was a lot of experience there, a lot of guys. And as you know, Luke Gallows right now is in WWE, and he was part of my training class whenever I wrestled in the House of Pain, because he's a local guy. I wrestled him, and then my biggest match, I wrestled Nikolai Volkov, who is actually a WWE Hall of Famer. I wrestled him right outside of Waynesboro. It was a local show, packed house because he was there. And it was basically a squash match, but it was so good, man, just to meet him. And so funny. I'll just kind of give you a quick little story. As I went up to him. At that point, I was probably about 21, 22, maybe 23, and I went up to him, and at that point, I weighed about maybe 160 pounds soaking wet. So I was a really light guy. But I was 6'2", 6'3", so I was really tall and lanky. And I go up to him in his dressing room, and I say, "Hey, it's a pleasure to meet you. It's more than an honor to be in this match with you." And he was just like, he shook my hand, and at this point, he was probably in his late 50s, but he's as big as a freaking horse. I mean, his shoulders were so wide, it's ridiculous. But went up to him in the locker room, and he said to me after he shook my hand, he's like, "All right, this is how the match is going to go. We're going to get in the ring, we lock up, I throw you around, hit my finisher, we done." I'm like, "Dude, you got it. I'll make it look like $1 million." And man, he squashed me something good. But I'll tell you what, it was fun, great experience. And I mean, how many backyard wrestlers can say they wrestled WWE Hall of Famer?
I mean, yeah, and you have also wrestled Luke Gallows, so.
Yeah, he was part of our training class. Just my training class was probably about 15 or 16 guys, and he was one of them. And he just stayed with the professional business for a long time, and really worked in there and put in the time. And unfortunately, where I was at in my state of mind, I did it for about 1.5 years, and gained a lot of exposure. Was in some title matches, had some great matches at their big events for those indie companies. But just kind of strayed from it. Didn't really like the way it was going. It's just the one thing I can say about the professional wrestling versus backyard wrestling is with professional wrestling, you lose a lot of creative freedom. And that, to me, that's one of the best parts about backyard wrestling is being able to be creative and come up with your own gimmicks and your storylines and things like that. You just don't have that in professional wrestling. You get more exposure in professional, but I'll gladly sacrifice the exposure to be more creative and have more fun.
I mean, yeah. Backyard wrestling, like you said, it is about fun, but it's also about keeping your guys safe and trying to put on the best show you possibly can. And that's a way to hope you could gain all that exposure, having the best matches to represent your company. That's one of the best ways to go down,
Oh, absolutely. And, like I said, and I tell my guys whenever we go to perform for other companies or when other companies perform to us, I mean, we have to be on our A game because we're not only, entertaining the crowd and, our basic fan base that's there at our live events, and, for the videos that we put up and everything, but we're also showing our quality of how good the DBW really is to these other companies that say, I think that's one of the reasons whenever we went up to ECW, some of the BEW guys, Navon and Yankee and Cameron Jackson was like, "Hey, when are you guys having an event? I want to wrestle with you guys." I mean, they came up to us and asked us that, and that was a real honor because some of those guys are ring veterans themselves, and have great experience, that wrestled professionally in the backyard and all that. But just to hear them say that, that says a lot, and it means a lot, because we put in a lot of time and effort into this, blood, sweat, and tears, as they say, into this business. And it's whenever you hear someone say like that, that's a huge compliment, and that's what you work for. Them and that crowd pop. I mean, that's what you work for. Whether you're a heel or a face, when you have a match and you have that crowd fully engaged and they're booing the hell out of you or cheering you, I mean, that's what you work for. Not titles, not any of that stuff. I mean, that stuff's great, and it comes as recognition, but the true recognition is the fan base and the recognition from your peers that do this business.
Oh yeah, definitely. But talking about all of these good things, talking about all these good matches, what would you have to say would be your best match in just like ever, wrestling wise, story wise, all of that? What would you pick as your best match?
Oh boy, I'll tell you what. I'll probably say about 9 or 10 years ago. I have 2 or 3. About 9 or 10 years ago, I wrestled both of my brothers on our old ring on those futon mats I was telling you about. It was a triple threat match for the Intercontinental Championship, which the Exterminator, who is currently our DBW champion. It was him versus Mr. Judgment versus the Enemy. And I'll tell you what, that how we used to go, because we were all, real young at the time, and, it was just move after move after move. And it was like 25 minutes of just nonstop. I mean, we did not take breaks at all. It was just move after move after move. And it just went so smooth, and it was such a great match. And I think that's one of my favorites of all time, along with 2 matches this year. I had a match with the Burfinator and Paradox, Day of Reckoning in October or September, I believe it was, for my World Extreme Championship, in which Burfinator won. But I'll tell you what, that match, if you watch that match, I mean, we have long matches in the DBW, but that's the good thing about DBW and our wrestlers is we can have long matches and keep you entertained for every second of that match. And it was just so smooth, just went so well, and just told a great story for that match. And to have it, end the way it did with Burfinator sneaking a victory, it was just perfect. That match really went well. And then the other one was, of course, one of our biggest anticipated matches of the year was that rematch from 9 years ago of that triple threat with me and my 2 brothers, which was the main event match of November to Remember this past year, which finished off our season. That match, it's got hundreds and hundreds of views, and it went so smooth. I mean, you have the best, arguably the best of the best in the company going at it, and it again told a story very well. Ended with some controversy, which I think helps anticipate and helps our fan base and the universe look forward to DBW starting this year. Those matches were just phenomenal. But there's been so many good matches. I mean, the tag team matches I've had, and the match where I had the first ever DBW tables match I had with Phoenix. That match was great, even though we had a shitty table. The match itself was phenomenal. First time I ever wrestled him. It's like we have been wrestling each other for years. It was great. So.
I mean, yeah, just the thought of those matches sound great. Even if we're talking about the one from 9 and 10 years ago, 9 or 10 years ago, I bet that was actually really amazing. But I hate to take it on to the complete opposite end of the spectrum. With everyone having great matches, there's always bound to be 1 or 2 really bad matches. And what would you say those matches are?
Oh boy, bad matches that I've been involved in. Oh boy.
doesn't have to be a
I
bad
think that,
match. It could be one that like you just really hated working, or one that you just thought was not good in your books, at least.
well, I'll tell you, a match that I thought it went very well, but it kind of disappointed me a little bit was actually my match in ECW that I had with Victor Van Pelt and Johnny Reed. It ended up being a pretty damn good match, looking back on it, and I think everyone would agree. But I just thought that the ending was botched a little bit with Victor Van Pelt joining the Murder Club at that event and all that, and for me myself as a promoter and the owner of a company, my guys know the outcomes of the matches weeks in advance before a match is going to start, and our events are planned weeks, sometimes months in advance. So everyone's prepared. It's not like you go to a match and then the day of, hey, this is what's going on. And we had worked an ending spot, me and Bryce, and it was kind of scraps without me knowing it until the last minute. And I think my ending would have been a lot better. Would have ended in good chaos instead of everybody kind of confused around. And I kind of cleaned it up a little bit with hitting Cameron Jackson with a big Judgment Slam at the end there. But that match, I thought I made those guys, and sometimes you can oversell, but not to a point where it looks too obvious. But I felt like I sold a little bit too much for those guys instead of really showing and dominating that match, which that's my fault. But the match was still good. I was kind of disappointed by it a little bit just because of those multiple reasons.
I mean, I'll be honest. The ending of that match was a bit weird. I mean,
oh yeah, because it didn't end how it was supposed to end. It was just kind of thrown together. I mean, Yankee and Cameron and those guys didn't know what the hell they were doing because they weren't told, and then whatever it was, Bryce's little clique at the time, they didn't know what they were doing, and my guys were supposed to come out. It was just a mess. It was just a mess.
Yeah, it was kind of bad, I'll be completely honest. But overall, the match itself was a pretty good match.
Oh yeah, I mean the match was very good. I think it showed a lot of those two guys' quality in the ring, for what they can. And I think I got to show some of my quality too. But I think just with who I was in the ring with, I probably should have dominated the match a little bit more. But that's okay. I wanted to make it seem kind of even though it really should have been.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Oh man, so you were just talking about these guys, but the Murder Club, there's a lot of mixed reactions from people about the Murder Club, like the group itself, not the people on it, but just some people think that it's too large and it's too dominant, and some other people just absolutely love it because it's the mini Bullet Club, as some would put it. But I don't know, I've heard a couple of rumors of what people thought you said. Some people said you hated the idea of the Murder Club. Some people said that you loved it. So I just want to get a confirmation from the man himself. What do you think about the Murder Club?
Here is what I will tell you about the Murder Club from two different perspectives. Perspective number one is going to be from not Mr. Judgment. It's going to be from Brian. And that perspective is I really have a lot of respect for those guys. They're all very good at what they do. They're very good wrestlers in that ring. They're great. At least the ones that I've seen, they're fantastic. Now, perspective number two would be Mr. Judgment's perspective. And Mr. Judgment can't stand those guys. They are the biggest pieces of trash on God's green earth. I mean, they are the brown stain on the underwear of life. And they cost me that match and interfered. And I understand that, they couldn't have handled business between Victor Van Pelt and Johnny Reed. They obviously couldn't handle business by themselves at the time. So it took a huge mob of a bunch of guys to finally get me down. But Mr. Judgment has a huge problem with the Murder Club. And I'll tell you this, and I hope that they're listening and I hope that they hear this, because Cameron Jackson was only the first one to get Judgment Slam. He is the first of many to get Judgment Slam, because everyone who was involved in that match who stuck their nose in my business is going to pay. That's the two perspectives. And the other fact is, by the perspective of Mr. Judgment, I mean, if the Murder Club wants to just bring in any old person, any old wrestler without any qualifications, which is what it sure does seem like to me. I mean, Victor Van Pelt is a piece of trash. I mean, he should take that money and spend it on training instead of spending it on his fake pinky ring. And then you have Adam the Backyard Nightmare Anderson. I mean, he's the biggest piece of trash. I mean, a strong gust of wind will blow his ass away. So, I mean, they'll obviously just let anybody into their little Boy Scout club. But that's okay. Let's just keep adding the victims for me to keep slaughtering. How's that for you?
That's some very intense words from Mr. Judgment himself. I think I like Brian a bit better with the attitude. But
well, see, Mr. Judgment, the character of Mr. Judgment this year is going to a whole new level. Mr. Judgment has typically been this kind of arrogant, on the verge of being funny guy who just talks so much smack it's ridiculous, while giving hints of being somewhat evil, whereas this year it's going to be the exact opposite. Mr. Judgment is getting in touch with his dark side. He will become the Dark Lord of Backyard Wrestling this year, and he is summoning his inner demons to really devastate the competition this year. So it's going to be a different side and a different look of Mr. Judgment. It's easy to compare whenever you say you have like an unholy or a Dark Lord or a demonic gimmick. It's easy to compare to The Undertaker because he kind of sets the standard for that with the first one. But just imagine Undertaker times 10, and that'll be Mr. Judgment this year.
Oh, that is very interesting to hear and very exciting. I cannot wait to see how this is getting pulled off. But I just want to talk a little more about this new arena and this new place you have. You have a lot of professional things going into it. You have professional lighting system, professional commentary, with an actual commentary team. I won't lie, this is definitely the most professional backyard company I've seen. And with all this new professional things and the fact of it being indoor, would you consider this as a backyard wrestling company or an independent promotion?
I don't think we're to the level yet of considering ourselves an independent promotion. And in our hearts, we're still always backyard wrestlers. And when you become an independent promotion, there are certain rules that come with that, certain standards that come with that. And, if we ever got big enough, I still don't think I would explore that option. I love, like I said, the creativity of backyard wrestling. Even though we are trying to get more professional looking, I mean, that's to help improve our quality of performance and our quality of appearance in the DBW. With getting having a professional sound system, having a professional lighting system, having the biggest backyard wrestling ring out of any company that's close by. A 16 by 16 foot ring is just absolutely huge. I mean, I think ECW and BEW, correct me if I'm wrong, have a 14 foot ring.
BEW has a 12 by 12, I believe.
12 by 12. Okay. So I mean, they're going to be wrestling in a bigger ring. We promote safety. Of course, that's the number one thing. You will never see us wrestle on a tarp ring again. There's just too many issues and injuries that can happen with that. We're indoors now, so we don't have to worry about weather, which is beautiful for us. We can wrestle all year round if we want to. Heated, it'll be air conditioned. We have professional lighting, sound. We have an entranceway. It's just going to be amazing, and the crowd is going to be right there. And the DBW arena, it's going to be in Shippensburg, Pennsylvania, which is our new home. Our home has been in beautiful Hancock, Maryland, and it's I can't say enough great stuff about what we did here and the fans that came out and supported us. Actually, DTW, before we became the DBW, that was actually originated in Shippensburg as well. So we're kind of going back home, so to speak. But it's going to be great. It's going to be phenomenal. And I think that, whenever these other companies, and yourself included, you're going to have a taste of greatness coming here to Total Domination, you're definitely going to want to come back.
I'm definitely very excited to be working with the company, work with you guys, work with your kid in the ring. Honestly, I think we're gonna throw down a tremendous match. As everyone else, you got some really big cards out there. You got probably the biggest match in my opinion, Navon McDonald versus Cameron Jackson. This is definitely a dream match in my mind, and the fact that we're all gonna see this go down in real life is incredible, and I'm very excited to see this match go. What's your
Yeah, I mean,
opinion?
it's total domination. April 22nd in Shippensburg, Pennsylvania, the brand new DBW Arena. It's going to have a start time of 1 o'clock, and it'll go until it's over. We have 8 extremely good matches. I mean, it is a packed card. 8 matches for an event is a lot, and it's huge. And each one of these matches are going to be amazing. So I'll just kind of speak on each match, not going in any particular order. But we have members of the new company that we're working with, the UWF. I've been talking with their owner and have built a great relationship with him and their guys, and they constantly spread the word of DBW. Anytime we post a video, they're the first ones to share it, with us, and they have helped us get the word out for DBW so much. We're going to see what they're all about. They're coming from New York. So it's going to be a triple threat match with those guys. And again, I can't remember the name. And they're going to yell at me for that. But it's 3 guys going in a triple threat no disqualification match to show the quality of the UWF, which from what I hear is going to be amazing. And then we have the BEW match, which you just touched on. Backyard Entertainment Wrestling. We have their owner, the King of the Mountain, Yvonne McDonald, versus Cameron Jackson, CJE 16, whatever he wants to call himself. Those guys have done great things in this business, great things with multiple companies. So we're expecting nothing but the best from those guys. And the other thing about all these matches too is good luck following any of the matches before you, because it's going to be hard to follow. But you really got to think about what you got to do to one up the previous match that came before you.
Oh, exactly. It's gonna be tough.
Oh yeah. So the BEW match is going to be great. And then we have your match. We have Zach the Hellhound Romick going against Triple C. 2 extremely good and performed high flyers. That should be one of the most high-flying matches of the event. Triple C has always been a fan favorite, as I know that you are. So two very good faces and good guys going at it. Should be a great match, very competitive match. Great sportsmanship in that ring. So you guys should, be one of the matches that could easily steal the show. Easily. So we have that match. And then we start to get into the actual DBW championship matches, which we have 5 titles in the DBW, and every single one of them are on the line. We have the brand new Anarchy Championship, which is we have renamed. It used to be called the 1VA, which stood for the One Versus All Championship. And what the concept of that title is, it's an original concept. And what it is every time that title is contested for in the ring, it's in a triple threat match, fatal 4-way, or more. So it's one of the hardest titles to defend because you're constantly going up against at least 2 different opponents. It's never a one-on-one match. So it's a